20 medicinal plants of the indigenous peoples of the Americas. Hello, herbalists! What if I told you that long before hospitals, pharmacies, and modern medicine, entire civilizations thrived using plants that grew right under their feet? Plants that stopped bleeding in seconds, that broke fevers overnight, that healed wounds that would have killed anyone without treatment. The indigenous peoples of North America developed one of the most sophisticated systems of plant medicine the world has ever known. Knowledge passed down through hundreds of generations, tested in battles, in remote villages, and in brutal winters where making a mistake meant death. These weren't casual remedies, herbalists. They were survival medicines, and they worked. Today, I'm going to show you 20 of those plants, ordered from impressive to absolutely incredible. Stay until number 14. It was so sacred to certain tribes that they did not pronounce its name aloud. And number 20 has been in active use for more than 5,000 years, and remains one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory plants that modern science has ever studied. Like this post if you already use any of these. And subscribe, we post every week. Look, there's something they don't teach us about the history of medicine. They teach us that modern medicine discovered everything, that before antibiotics and hospitals, people simply died of things we no longer die of. But that ignores centuries of accumulated knowledge. Knowledge that wasn't in books because it was passed down from master to apprentice, from healer to healer, from generation to generation. Knowledge that was tested under conditions where there was no room for error. The indigenous peoples of the Americas lived in environments that demanded effective medicine. They had no trade with the outside world, no imports of plants from other continents, only what grew around them. And they built medicinal systems that science is now validating one by one. Meanwhile, many of those plants continue to grow in forests, deserts, prairies, and perhaps even in your own garden, waiting for someone to remember them. Today, we remember them together, herbalists. I'm going to show you 20 plants. But before we begin, 3 promises. First, number 1 on this list has a name that comes from Greek mythology. Achilles used it to stop his warriors bleeding in battle. The indigenous peoples of the Americas discovered it completely independently and arrived at the exact same conclusions. That's no coincidence. It's plant pharmacology. Second, there's a plant on this list that nature covered in such aggressive thorns that getting hurt while picking it was almost inevitable. And yet, the desert peoples considered it their most valuable medicine. There's a reason. Let me explain. And third, number 14 was so sacred that some tribes wouldn't even speak its name aloud. We'll discover together what it was about this root that gave it such spiritual significance. And science has something to say about it. Ready? Let's begin. Plants 1 to 5, field and battle medicines. Plant number 1, yarrow, the warrior's wound. Peoples, Blackfeet, Cheyenne, Ojibwe, and dozens more across the continent. Achilles used it in the Iliad. Indigenous peoples rediscovered it on their own. That says it all. We begin with the most urgent of all. Yarrow has a scientific name that comes directly from Greek mythology, Achillea millefolium. Achilles, the greatest warrior of ancient Greece, used it to stop his soldiers bleeding in battle. The Romans called it herba militaris, the herb of the army. And the indigenous peoples of North America, completely separate from that tradition, came to the exact same conclusion. This isn't folklore passed down between cultures. The plant really works, and the people who used it proved it. The Blackfoot, Cheyenne, Ojibwe, and dozens more tribes from the plains to the Pacific Northwest used it for a critical purpose: to quickly stop bleeding. Yarrow contains compounds that literally accelerate blood clotting. When you apply crushed fresh leaves to a bleeding wound, the bleeding slows down within minutes. This isn't folklore. Studies confirm its genuine hemostatic properties. Yarrow extracts also have proven antibacterial effects against common wound pathogens and significantly reduce inflammation. The combination of stopping bleeding and fighting infections made it one of the most valued first aid plants in indigenous medicine. The traditional method was immediate and direct. Take fresh yarrow leaves, crush them between your fingers or chew them briefly to break down the cell walls, and apply them directly to the wound. Then bandage with a clean cloth. No further steps. No other ingredients. It grows abundantly in meadows, roadsides, and disturbed soils. Recognize it by its feathery, fern-like leaves and distinctive flat white or pink flowers. For field use, apply crushed fresh plants directly to cuts, nosebleeds, or wounds. At home, prepare an infusion of the aerial parts for fever and inflammation. Use a flower tincture externally. Plant number 2, willow, the original aspirin. Peoples, Cherokee, Iroquois, Great Plains tribes. When chemists created aspirin in the 19th century, they were copying what the willow had been doing for millennia. The story of modern pain relief begins here, not in a pharmaceutical laboratory, on a riverbank, with a Cherokee shaman peeling the inner bark of a willow tree. Willow trees, salic species, grow near water throughout North America. The inner bark contains salicin, a compound your body converts into salicylic acid, the same active ingredient in aspirin. When chemists created aspirin in the late 19th century, they were literally trying to synthesize what willow bark had been doing naturally for thousands of years. The Cherokee used willow bark infusion for headaches and fever, the Iroquois for aches and sore throats, the Plains tribes for everything from toothaches to arthritis. And here's the important difference between willow bark and aspirin. While aspirin is a single compound that can irritate the stomach, willow bark contains salicin plus dozens of other compounds that work together. Many people who can't tolerate aspirin can use willow bark without digestive problems. The whole plant is gentler and more balanced than the synthetic version. Modern clinical trials confirm what indigenous healers knew. Studies show that willow bark extract significantly reduces lower back pain, osteoarthritis, and headaches. We're talking about peer-reviewed research demonstrating that willow works as well as conventional painkillers for many conditions. Traditional preparation. Peel the inner bark of young willow branches, dry it, and boil it for 1 to 15 minutes. Drink this infusion 2 or 3 times a day for pain or fever. The effect is not instant like taking an aspirin, but the pain begins to subside within 30 to 60 minutes. Decoction of dried inner bark for chronic pain, arthritis, and fever. Bark tincture for ongoing use. Dried bark can be found in quality herbal shops. Plant number 3, echinacea, the immune system warrior. Peoples, Lakota, Cheyenne, Kiowa, considered one of their most important medicines. The best known of the indigenous medicinal plants, and also the most misunderstood. Echinacea is probably the most globally recognized indigenous medicinal plant today. But most people who take echinacea supplements have no idea of its deep indigenous roots or how it was actually used by Plains tribes. Echinacea species grow in the Great Plains, producing those characteristic purple flowers with orange, spiky centers. The Lakota, Cheyenne, and Kiowa tribes considered echinacea one of their most important medicines. They used it for more ailments than almost any other plant. Snake bites, insect bites, infected wounds, toothaches, sore throats, and what we would now call colds and the flu. The root was the most prized part. Thick, pungent roots that were chewed fresh, made into poultices, or prepared as decoctions. Here's what happens when you chew fresh echinacea root. Your mouth experiences a tingling and mild numbness within seconds. That's not just a curious sensation. It's the plant's alkylamides interacting with immune system receptors in your mouth and throat. Traditional healers recognize this immediate response as a sign that the medicine was working. Modern research confirms that echinacea modulates immune function, stimulating certain white blood cells and increasing anti-inflammatory compounds. The confusion in the study stems from the sheer number of variables involved. Which species, which part of the plant, how it was prepared, and when it was taken. Traditional use was very specific. Fresh or recently dried root taken at the first sign of illness in substantial and frequent doses. Not a capsule a day for maintenance. A root chewed at the first tickle in the throat. Chew echinacea root at the first sign of symptoms. Take a strong decoction of the root every few hours at the onset of the illness. The key: early, frequent, and in appropriate doses. Plant number 4, Yerba Santa, the sacred breath. Peoples: Chumash, Ohlone, and tribes of California and the Southwest. The Spanish colonizers adopted both the plant and the reverent name given to it by the indigenous people. The name says it all. Yerba Santa, sacred herb. The Spanish colonizers who arrived in California adopted both the plant and the reverential name the indigenous peoples gave it. When a conquering culture adopts the sacred name the conquered culture uses for something, that tells you something about the power of that plant. Eriodictyon californicum grows on the dry hillsides and chaparral of California and the Southwest, producing clusters of lavender flowers and sticky resinous leaves. The Chumash, Ohlone, and other tribes of California used Yerba Santa primarily for respiratory problems: coughs, colds, asthma, and chest congestion. The leaves contain compounds that act as expectorants, helping to expel mucus, and mild bronchodilators, helping you breathe better. When you prepare an infusion of the leaves, the effect on congested lungs can be felt within an hour. Studies show anti-inflammatory effects on the respiratory tract and genuine expectorant properties. The leaves are intensely aromatic and somewhat bitter. That bitterness is part of what makes it work. The bitter compounds stimulate bronchial secretions and help dissolve thick mucus. The traditional remedy for a chest cold: an infusion of dried leaves 3 times a day, allowing the aromatic steam to reach the airways as you drink. Some tribes also burned the leaves and inhaled the aromatic smoke for immediate relief. Within a day or two, the thick congestion begins to loosen and clear. The difference with modern pharmaceutical decongestants: those simply dry up secretions without helping to eliminate the infection. Yerba Santa works with your lungs' natural cleansing mechanisms. Infusion of dried leaves for lung congestion. Steam from leaves in hot water inhaled directly. Syrup with honey for long-term respiratory support. Plant number 5, wild bergamot, the aromatic warrior. Peoples: Blackfeet, Ojibwe, Winnebago, and many more. The Blackfeet called it the flower for everything. They were right in every way. Some plants seem to have medicinal properties before you even try them. Wild bergamot is one of them. The moment the leaves are crushed, the intense aroma of mint and oregano hits you. This smell isn't decorative. It's pure pharmacology. Monarda fistulosa grows throughout North America in prairies and open woodlands, producing beautiful lavender-pink flowers that bees love. The common English name, bee balm, comes from this relationship. The Blackfeet called it the flower for everything. The Ojibwe used it for respiratory problems and fever. The Winnebago for skin infections. Dozens of tribes recognized its power. The plant contains thymol and other volatile oils with genuine antimicrobial properties. The same compounds that make thyme and oregano medicinal are present here in high concentrations. Studies on Monarda species show antibacterial and antifungal effects with activity against common respiratory and skin pathogens. The traditional method for treating a respiratory infection was very specific. Prepare a strong infusion of fresh or dried leaves. Inhale the steam deeply while it was brewing. Then drink it hot. The aromatic compounds reach the respiratory tract immediately through the steam, while drinking the infusion delivers the medicine internally. Within minutes of drinking and inhaling the steam, the congested airways begin to open. For infected wounds or skin problems, the tribes prepared a poultice of crushed fresh leaves or a wash of a strong infusion. The volatile antimicrobial oils fight infection when applied directly. Strong infusion of leaves for respiratory colds. Steam inhalation with leaves in hot water. Poultice of fresh leaves for infected wounds and skin problems. Herbalists, we've covered 5 plants for first aid and respiratory treatment. But now comes something different. We're talking about plants with stories from specific communities. Plants that grow in particular ecosystems. And only those who lived in those ecosystems knew exactly what they were used for. Plants that took science longer to discover precisely because they were more local. And some of the most surprising. Plants 6-10, regional medicines with universal power. Plant number 6, elderberry, the secret weapon against the flu. Peoples, Cherokee, Iroquois, tribes from all over the continent. Before it was trendy in herbal shops, Native American tribes knew exactly what it did. Elderberry is all the rage in modern wellness culture. Syrups and supplements are available in every store. But long before it became fashionable, the indigenous peoples of all of North America knew exactly what this shrub could do. Sambuca species grow throughout North America, with different species in different regions, but all used medicinally. The Cherokee used it for infections and immunity. The Iroquois used it for fever and respiratory infections. Tribes across the continent recognized that the black-purple berries and creamy white flowers had potent medicinal properties. Modern research has shown that elderberry extract significantly reduces the duration and severity of the flu. Multiple clinical trials demonstrate that people who take elderberry syrup at the first sign of flu symptoms recover faster and experience less severe symptoms. The flowers were traditionally used as a diaphoretic, an infusion that promotes sweating to break fevers. The hot infusion was drunk at the first sign of fever. You'd get under the covers and sweat. The timing was critical. At the first symptoms, not when you were already in bed. The berries were cooked in syrups for long-term immune support. Raw berries contain compounds that can cause stomach upset, so they must be cooked. But once prepared properly, they are safe and powerfully medicinal. Traditional elderberry syrup. Boil fresh or dried elderberries in water until reduced by half. Strain. Add honey while still hot. Take several tablespoons daily during illness. Elderflower infusion at the first sign of fever to promote sweating. Berry syrup during illness for immune support and symptom relief. Combined, double effect. Plant number 7, golden seal, the overexploited medicine. Peoples, Cherokee and tribes of eastern North America. We loved it so much we almost drove it to extinction. That should tell you something about its power. The golden seal has a tragic history. It is one of the most powerful medicinal plants used by indigenous peoples, and we loved it so much in the 20th century that we almost drove it to extinction. Hydrastis canadensis grows in the understory of rich forests in eastern North America. It has small white flowers and bright red berries. The Cherokee used the yellow rhizomes for skin infections, eye infections, and digestive problems. Other eastern tribes used it for mouth sores, wounds, and liver problems. The roots contain berberine and hydrastine, alkaloids with proven antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, and astringent properties. When you apply golden seal to infected tissue, eyes, mouth, skin, or wounds, the effect is rapid. Inflammation decreases and healing is accelerated. Studies confirm its activity against bacteria, fungi, and parasites. Traditional uses included washing infected eyes with a powdered root, using it as a mouthwash for canker sores and infected gums, and applying it to wounds that would not heal. Important: golden seal has been so overexploited that it is endangered in its natural habitat. If you use golden seal, never buy wild harvested root. Use only cultivated golden seal, or better yet, substitute it with other berberine-containing plants like Oregon grape or barberry, which are not threatened. This plant teaches us something fundamental about herbalism. Knowledge without sustainability destroys what it seeks to preserve. Powerful plants deserve protection, not exploitation. Cultivated, never wild. Golden seal in small quantities for topical use. Powdered root wash for eyes and skin. Mouth wash for oral infections. Plant number 8. Oregon grape, the Northwest's sustainable gift. Pueblos, tribes of the Pacific Northwest, California. The sustainable alternative to gold seed, with the same berberine, without the risk of extinction. The Oregon grape is not a grape. It is an evergreen shrub with holly-like leaves, yellow flowers, and blue berries. And it has become the sustainable alternative to golden seal because it contains the same berberine compounds but grows much more abundantly. Mahonia aquifolium grows throughout the Pacific Northwest and parts of California. The indigenous tribes of the region use the roots and inner bark for a wide range of conditions: skin infections, digestive problems, liver complaints, and as a general tonic. The inner bark and roots are the medicinal parts, rich in berberine and other alkaloids. When you prepare Oregon grape root, the deep yellow color is immediately obvious. It's the berberine content making itself known. Multiple clinical trials show that topical Oregon grape extract significantly improves psoriasis symptoms. We're talking about actual published research demonstrating real improvements in scaly, inflammatory skin conditions. The berberine content provides antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory effects that genuinely help with chronic skin problems. Internally, the bitter root was used in small doses as a digestive tonic and liver support. Like all bitter herbs, it stimulates bile production and digestive function. The berries are edible when cooked and have their own nutritional benefits. They are quite acidic raw, but the roots are the primary medicinal part. Oregon grape extract for topical use on psoriasis and chronic skin conditions. Consistent use for several weeks to see results. Bitter root in small doses for slow digestion and liver support. Plant number 9. Devil's stick, the formidable healer of the forest. Peoples, Tlingit, Haida, and Northwest coastal tribes. The name comes from its thorns. The medicine comes from beneath them. If you've ever come across the devil's stick in the woods, you'll understand the name immediately. This plant is covered in vicious thorns on its stems, leaves, and even berries. It's nearly impossible to approach it without getting hurt. And yet, for the coastal tribes of the Pacific Northwest, it was one of the most respected plants in the forest. Oplopanax horridus grows in humid forests from Alaska to the Pacific Northwest. It can reach 3 meters in height, with enormous maple-like leaves and bright red berries. The Tlingit, Haida, and other coastal tribes considered the devil's stick a powerful spiritual and physical medicine. Traditional uses were extensive: respiratory infections, arthritis, diabetes-like symptoms, skin infections, and as a general tonic for strength and vitality. The spiny outer bark was carefully removed to reveal the inner bark, which was the medicinal part. For respiratory infections, the inner bark was peeled, dried, and prepared as a decoction, a strong infusion made by boiling it for 20 to 30 minutes. It was drunk several times a day for coughs, chest congestion, and lung infections. People report that devilwood tea helps loosen thick mucus and eases breathing for several hours after use. The plant has a stimulating and pungent quality that seems to awaken the respiratory system. Some research suggests that devil's wood has anti-inflammatory properties, although rigorous clinical trials are limited. It is also traditionally used for blood sugar regulation. Important note about its wild growth: those thorns are not decorative. They cause painful wounds that can become infected if not treated properly. Harvesting it requires specific knowledge and care. Plant number 10, slippery elm, the throat soother. Peoples, Iroquois, Cherokee, and Eastern tribes. The soothing effect is almost immediate. Within minutes, acute pain becomes manageable. Slippery elm has one of the most immediately soothing effects of any medicinal plant. The inner bark is so rich in mucilage, a gelatinous, slippery substance, that it coats and soothes irritated tissue on contact. The effect is almost physically perceptible. Ulmus rubra grows in eastern North America. The Iroquois, Cherokee, and other eastern tribes use slippery elm bark for sore throats, coughs, digestive inflammation, and external wounds. What happens when you take slippery elm? The mucilage coats your throat and digestive tract, creating a protective layer over the inflamed tissue. For a raw, sore throat, the relief is almost immediate. Within minutes of drinking slippery elm tea, the sharp pain softens into a soothing sensation. The traditional preparation for a sore throat: mix 1 teaspoon of powdered inner bark with hot water, creating a thick, slippery drink. Sip it slowly, allowing it to coat your throat completely. Some added honey for added flavor and soothing properties. For digestive inflammation, what we would now call gastritis or symptoms of inflammatory bowel disease, slippery elm was taken in the same way but in larger quantities. The mucilage coats the entire digestive tract, protecting the inflamed areas and allowing healing to begin. There is no controversy here. Slippery elm simply works through pure physical action. External use was also common. The powdered bark mixed with water creates a paste that can be applied to burns, wounds, and inflamed skin. The mucilage draws out the inflammation and protects the affected area. Powdered inner bark in hot water is used for sore throats. Higher doses are used for digestive inflammation. An external paste is used for burns and irritated skin. It is available in capsules and powder form at herbalists. Stop for a moment, herbalists. We have 10 plants, 10 medicines that different peoples, in different ecosystems, independently developed to solve the same problems that humanity still faces today. And what I find most profound about all of this is this: these plants didn't become medicines by accident or superstition. They became medicines because generations of people observed, tested, and passed on what worked, in conditions where making a mistake could cost lives. That rigor, even if it wasn't called science, was science nonetheless. And modern biochemistry isn't contradicting that knowledge. It's confirming it. Now come the ones with the most specific stories. The ones most intimately linked to a town, an ecosystem, a ritual, and the most surprising of the entire list. Plant number 11, bearberry, the guardian of the urinary tract. Indigenous peoples, tribes of North America, Arctic and subarctic. A medicine that goes straight to the problem. Literally, bearberry grows as a creeping perennial in northern North America. The small red berries were eaten by bears, hence the name bearberry, but the leaves are the medicinal treasure. Indigenous peoples of the northern, Arctic, and subarctic regions used bearberry leaves specifically for urinary tract infections, kidney problems, and bladder inflammation. The leaves contain arbutin, which is converted to hydroquinone in the urinary tract, creating a direct antiseptic effect precisely where urinary tract infections occur. When you drink bearberry tea, the arbutin is converted to hydroquinone in your urinary tract, creating a direct antiseptic effect right where the infection is present. The burning and urgency begin to subside within hours as the medicine reaches the infected tissue. Modern studies support this traditional use. They show that bearberry has genuine antimicrobial activity in urine and can help with urinary tract infections. Short-term use only, no more than 1 week at a time, as prolonged use may cause liver irritation. Traditional use was consistent with this. A few days during an active infection to clear it quickly. The traditional preparation was a cold infusion or a mild infusion of dried leaves. Drink several times a day at the first sign of urinary symptoms. The taste is astringent and somewhat bitter. Infusion of dried leaves at the first sign of urinary tract infection symptoms. Maximum 5 to 7 days of continuous use. For mild symptoms caught early. Plant number 12, nettle, the paradoxical. Indigenous peoples. Virtually every tribe on the continent. It stings when you touch it fresh, and when you cook or dry it, it cures the sting. The universe has a sense of humor. Stinging nettle seems like an odd choice for medicine. Touch it fresh, and it stings. Microscopic needles inject irritating compounds, causing intense itching and burning. But this fierce plant is one of the most nutritious and medicinally valuable used by indigenous peoples. Urtica dioica grows abundantly near water and in rich soils throughout North America. Despite the stinging sensation, virtually every tribe on the continent carefully harvested nettles for both food and medicine. The tender spring shoots were cooked as a nutritious vegetable. The mature plant was used medicinally for everything from arthritis to allergies. The paradox: the same compounds that cause the stinging when fresh can provide pain relief when applied intentionally. Traditional use included deliberately stinging arthritic joints with fresh nettles, a practice called urtification. The inflammatory response triggered by the stinging somehow reduces pain and chronic inflammation. It sounds counterintuitive, but people report real relief. More commonly, nettles were dried or cooked, which neutralizes the sting. An infusion of the dried leaves is rich in minerals, particularly iron, and was used as a spring tonic to restore vitality after winter. Modern research shows that nettle has genuine anti-inflammatory and antihistamine properties. Studies suggest it may help with allergic rhinitis, arthritis, and benign prostatic hyperplasia. For seasonal allergies, many people take nettle leaf capsules or infusion throughout allergy season and report reduced symptoms. Cooked tender shoots can be enjoyed as a spring vegetable. Wear gloves when picking. An infusion of the dried leaves can be used for allergies, arthritis, and as a mineral tonic. Nettle root is used for prostate health. Its properties are distinct from those of the leaves. Plant number 13, nopal, the desert's calming gift. Peoples of the Southwest, Navajo, Apache, Hopi, and many more. Full of thorns on the outside, pure soothing medicine on the inside. The prickly pear cactus grows throughout the Southwest desert and has spread to other warm regions. The pads are covered in thorns and tiny, irritating glochids. But beneath that defense system lies one of the most calming medicinal plants used by desert peoples. Opuntia species were used extensively by the indigenous peoples of the Southwest. The Navajo, Apache, Hopi, and many other tribes applied the carefully dethorned pads to wounds, burns, and inflamed skin. The inside of the pads is rich in mucilage, creating a soothing and moisturizing effect on damaged tissue. The traditional treatment for minor burns or scrapes involved carefully dethorning a pad using a knife or by singeing it over a fire, then opening it to reveal the moist interior. This was applied directly to the burn or wound, where the mucilage soothed the pain and drew out the heat. The effect on minor burns is remarkably rapid. People report that the cool, soothing sensation provides immediate comfort, and burns treated with prickly pear often heal with less scarring. The pads were also eaten, providing both nutrition and medicinal benefits. Recent research shows that the prickly pear cactus can help regulate blood sugar, and some traditional uses included eating the pads for what we would now recognize as symptoms of diabetes. Prickly pears, the fruit of the nopal cactus, are edible and nutritious, rich in antioxidants and vitamin C. A destemmed and opened pad can be applied directly to burns and irritated skin. Cooked pads are consumed for nutritional and medicinal benefits. Fresh prickly pears are also consumed as an antioxidant food. Plant number 14, American calamus, the sacred root. Peoples, Ojibwe, Great Lakes tribes, and many more. Here it is, the one I promised at the beginning, the one certain tribes wouldn't speak aloud. Here it is, the one I promised at the beginning of the video. So sacred that some tribes wouldn't even speak its name aloud. The American calamus, Acarus americanus, grows in wetlands and along stream banks, producing tall, iris-like leaves and a distinctive aromatic rhizome. The root has an intensely spicy, sweet, and aromatic scent that immediately tells you it's medicinal. The Ojibwe and other Great Lakes tribes considered sweet flag a powerful spiritual and physical medicine, used in ceremonies and as a protective amulet. Warriors carried pieces of the root. Healers used it in healing rituals. Its medicinal uses were extensive, but digestive problems were the primary one. The aromatic root was chewed for nausea, indigestion, stomach aches, and to stimulate appetite. The effect on nausea can be surprisingly rapid. Chewing a small piece of the dried root often settles an upset stomach within minutes. What makes calamus work for digestion? The aromatic oils stimulate digestive secretions, reduce gas and bloating, and appear to soothe nausea through a combination of aroma and direct effect on the digestive tract. Important safety distinction. There is a crucial difference between European calamus, Acarus calamus, and American calamus, Acarus americanus. European calamus contains concerning levels of beta-acerone, a potentially toxic compound. American calamus contains much lower levels, or none at all. Traditional use always referred to the American species. Why was it so sacred that some tribes wouldn't even speak its name? The root has such an immediate, penetrating, and uniquely aromatic presence, unlike anything else in the forest, that it's easy to understand how it became a symbol of something greater than mere medicine. When something smells and tastes like nothing else, it impacts you on a level that transcends the physical. Small pieces of dried root chewed slowly for nausea and digestive upset. A short infusion of the root for general digestive support. American species only. Plant number 15, Desert Artemisia. The High Desert Pharmacy. Peoples, Shoshone, Paiute, and Great Basin tribes. In the Great Basin Desert, this plant was the complete medicine cabinet. Desert sagebrush isn't the culinary sage you use in the kitchen. It's the silvery, aromatic shrub that dominates the high-elevation deserts of the American West. And for the indigenous peoples of these regions, it was indispensable. Artemisia tridentata grows throughout the Great Basin and surrounding areas, producing intensely aromatic foliage that smells sharp and camphoraceous. The Shoshone, Paiute, and other Great Bowl tribes use desert mugwort for respiratory infections, fevers, headaches, and as a general antimicrobial. It was literally the always available medicine cabinet in an environment where medicinal plants were scarce. The traditional use for colds and respiratory infections was beautifully straightforward. Brew a strong infusion of the leaves and breathe in the aromatic steam while drinking it. Or burn dried leaves and carefully inhale the smoke. The volatile oils reach the airways immediately, helping to clear congestion and fight infection. Within minutes of drinking the hot infusion and breathing in the steam, the airways begin to open. The penetrating, warming quality of the aromatic oils seems to cut through congestion effectively. For fevers, mugwort was used as a wash or bath. Its antimicrobial and soothing properties helped reduce fever while fighting the underlying infection. Research on Artemisia species shows genuine antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory effects. The volatile oils have activity against bacteria, fungi, and some viruses. A traditional remedy for colds involved drinking mugwort infusion before bed, inhaling the steam deeply, and then getting under the covers to sweat. The combination of aromatic oils reaching the respiratory tract, internal antimicrobial effects, and the sweating response often shortened colds significantly. Use the leaves as an infusion for respiratory symptoms. Inhale the steam directly. Use externally as a wash for fevers. For external use only or as an infusion, never take the concentrated essential oil internally. Herbalists, we've covered 15. Now come the ones you might already know. The ones that are around you. The ones you may never have associated with this whole story. And the last one on the list is the one that connects Native American medicine with medicinal traditions from all over the world. It's been in use for 5,000 years, and modern science is still discovering why. Plant number 16, American witch hazel, the astringent master. Peoples, Eastern tribes, Iroquois, Mohegan, Potawatomi. The only traditional indigenous medicine that ended up in pharmacies worldwide. Literally, American witch hazel is one of those cases where traditional indigenous use and modern commercial use are perfectly aligned. This small tree was recognized by Eastern tribes as an exceptional medicine for skin problems, wounds, and inflammation. Hamamelis virginiana grows in eastern forests, producing unusual yellow flowers in late autumn, after the leaves have fallen. The Iroquois, Mohegan, Potawatomi, and other eastern tribes prepared poultices of fresh or dried leaves for cuts, scrapes, bruises, and inflamed skin. They also prepared decoctions of the bark to wash wounds and treat various skin conditions. What does astringent mean in practice? When you apply witch hazel to inflamed, moist skin or fresh wounds, it tightens the tissue, reduces swelling, stops minor bleeding, and helps prevent infection. The effect is noticeable within minutes. The inflammation begins to subside, and the damaged tissue begins to firm up. Modern witch hazel extract, available at any pharmacy, is made by distilling the branches. It is used exactly as the tribes used it, for minor skin irritations, inflammation, hemorrhoids, and as a general facial toner. The traditional preparation was simpler and possibly more potent. Fresh or dried twigs and leaves boiled in water, creating a tannin-rich decoction. This was applied as a wash, or used to soak cloth for compresses. A homemade decoction of the bark and leaves provides a stronger astringent effect than commercial extracts. Apply directly to cuts, scrapes, and inflamed skin. The commercial extract is available as a spray or lotion for daily use. Plant number 17, Western Red Cedar, the Tree of Life. Peoples, Tlingit, Haida, Quinault, and coastal tribes of the Northwest. They called it the Tree of Life. They used virtually every part of it. For the indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest, the Western Red Cedar was the Tree of Life. Not metaphorically, in a practical and complete way. Thuja plicata grows to enormous sizes in coastal forests from Alaska to Northern California. The aromatic foliage contains volatile oils with genuine antimicrobial and antifungal properties. For the Tlingit, Haida, Quinault, and other coastal tribes, virtually every part of the cedar tree had a critical use. Planks for houses, bark for baskets and clothing, roots for weaving, and the leaves and inner bark for potent medicine. Traditional medicinal use was extensive, but almost always external, or as steam inhalation. The inner bark was chewed and applied to wounds and infections. The foliage was boiled, and the steam inhaled for respiratory infections. The branches were used in steam bathing ceremonies for purification and healing. For respiratory infections, the traditional method was to boil fresh cedar leaves and inhale the aromatic steam deeply. The volatile oils help clear congestion and fight respiratory infections. Many people report quick relief from stuffy noses and chest congestion. Topical preparations of cedar leaf oil were used for skin infections and fungal problems. The antimicrobial oils help prevent wound infections and create an environment unfavorable to fungal growth. Important warning: Western red cedar contains thuione, a compound that can be toxic if ingested in significant amounts. Traditional use was almost always topical, such as steam inhalation or in steam baths, never as an infusion drunk internally. This is critical to understand. Steam from fresh foliage inhaled for respiratory congestion. Leaf oil, diluted, applied topically for skin infections. Never internally as an infusion. Plant number 18, smooth sumac, the soothing acid. Peoples, tribes across North America in regions where it grows. It's not poison sumac, and the difference is crucial. Smooth sumac produces those conical clusters of fuzzy red berries you've probably seen along roadsides. And while many people worry because they think all sumacs are poisonous, smooth sumac is completely safe and was widely used medicinally. Rus glabra grows throughout North America in dry, disturbed areas. Indigenous peoples primarily use sumac for mouth and throat problems, diarrhea, and fever. The berries are intensely acidic, rich in tannins and organic acids, particularly malic acid. The traditional preparation was remarkably simple. Pick a bunch of red fuzzy berries, rub them in cold water to loosen the acidic coating, strain, and you have sumac lemonade, a refreshing, acidic drink used as a gargle for sore throats. For a sore throat, relief from a sumac gargle can be felt within minutes. The combination of its acidic coolness and astringent action effectively soothes the inflamed throat tissue. Some tribes also drank diluted sumac lemonade for fever. The astringent and soothing action helped reduce the temperature while fighting the underlying infection. The inner bark was used differently. Bark decoctions were an astringent remedy for diarrhea and digestive upset. The tannins help tone the intestinal lining and reduce fluid loss. The modern culinary use of sumac is primarily as a spice. Middle Eastern spices are made with related species, but its medicinal astringent properties are real and effective. Fresh berries rubbed in cold water can be used as a gargle for a sore throat, providing immediate relief. A decoction of the bark can be used for diarrhea and intestinal discomfort. Sumac tea is used as a refreshing and astringent tonic. Plant number 19, Echinacea, the immune modulator, Part 2. Peoples, tribes of the Great Plains primarily, but also other regions. We already mentioned it, but it deserves a second entry due to the complexity of its use. We already discussed Echinacea at the beginning, herbalists, but it deserves a second entry on this list because, as a category, with multiple species used by different tribes in different regions, its complexity requires more context. Echinacea angustifolia, Echinacea purpurea, and Echinacea pallida all have traditional indigenous uses. Plains tribes primarily used E. angustifolia, while other species were used in different regions. They all contain alkylamides and other compounds that interact with immune function. The broader traditional context shows that Echinacea was not just for colds. It was used for snake bites, spider bites, infected wounds, toothaches, burns, and pain. The root was the primary medicine, pungent, tingling, and fast-acting upon contact with mucous membranes. Commercial Echinacea products vary enormously in quality and the species used. Some use the root, others the aerial parts, and still others both. Some use E. angustifolia, others E. purpurea, and still others mixtures. This variation explains why research findings are inconsistent. What traditional use teaches us is that specificity matters. Fresh or freshly dried E. angustifolia root taken at the first sign of infection in substantial doses is what the Plains tribes used. Most commercial products don't meet this specification. For people who grow their own Echinacea or have access to quality preparations, chew fresh root at the first tickle in your throat. Take strong preparations every few hours at the onset of illness. The tingling sensation when chewing the root isn't just curious. It's the plant interacting with immune receptors, potentially modulating your response to fight the infection more effectively. Chew fresh root at the first sign. Strong root decoction every few hours at the onset of symptoms. Early frequent in actual doses, with knowledge of the source. Floor number 20, Artemisia, mugwort, the bridge between worlds. Peoples, tribes across the Americas and cultures around the globe. 5,000 years of use on multiple continents. Last on the list, and perhaps the oldest of all. And here we are. Number 20, the one I promised would connect Native American medicine with medicinal traditions from around the world. Artemisia, known as mugwort, has been in active use on multiple continents for over 5,000 years. The North American species, Artemisia vulgaris, and related species native to the Americas, are part of that global tradition. Traditional Native American uses included digestive and menstrual problems, as incense for spiritual purification, and for dreams and visions. The aromatic leaves contain volatile oils and sesquiterpene lactones with genuine anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties. Research confirms what traditional use suggested. Mugwort has real medicinal effects for digestive problems. Mugwort infusion stimulates bile production and digestive secretions, helping with slow digestion, gas, and bloating. Its bitter and aromatic qualities stimulate digestive function. Traditional use for menstrual problems included drinking mugwort tea to stimulate delayed menstruation and relieve menstrual cramps. The plant has emmenagogue properties. It promotes menstrual flow. For this reason, never during pregnancy. This is an absolute warning. As incense, burned dried mugwort was used for spiritual purification and to promote vivid dreams. Many indigenous traditions and other cultures around the world have recognized mugwort's effects on sleep and consciousness. The effects of mugwort infusion on digestion can be felt within an hour. Improved appetite, less bloating, and better digestive comfort are common. For menstrual cramps, it was traditionally used several days before and during menstruation. What makes mugwort so fascinating as the final herb on this list is its global reach. While the indigenous peoples of the Americas used it in these specific ways, in China it was used in moxibustion. In Europe, it was used as a digestive aid and as a protector for travelers. In Africa, it was used in traditional medicine. On every continent where it grows, people reached similar conclusions about its potential benefits. That's not cultural transmission. The plant works, and the humans who lived near it discovered it. Artemisia infusion for slow digestion and general digestive support. Burn dried incense for purification and sleep. Never during pregnancy. Use in moderation in all cases. 20 plants. Dozens of villages. Thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. And time and again, the same story. People living in environments that did not forgive mistakes, paying attention with a precision that had no name of science, but was exactly that. Science based on observation and experience, passed down from generation to generation, refined over centuries. And now modern biochemistry arrives with its laboratories and controlled studies and says, yes, yarrow coagulates blood. Willow contains salicylates. Elderberry modulates the viral immune response. Slippery elm protects inflamed tissue with mucilage. The knowledge was already there, herbalists. It just needed someone to give it the name it was missing. And what I find most valuable about everything we've seen today isn't the list of plants. It's the principle behind the list. The principle that nature offers solutions. That the ecosystems where we live contain the medicines we need. That the knowledge accumulated over generations deserves respect and attention, not condescension. These plants are still there. They're still growing. They're still waiting for someone to remember them. The question isn't whether these plants work. History and science have answered that. The question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Are you going to learn to recognize yarrow the next time you're out in a field? Are you going to keep willow bark in your natural first aid kit? Are you going to plant echinacea in your garden? Because true honor to this knowledge isn't just knowing it. It's using it. It's passing it on. It's treating it with the respect it deserves after so many centuries of being ignored. Tell me in the comments, which of these plants surprised you the most? Are you on Team Field and Battlefield Medicine, Team Respiratory Medicine, or Team Sacred Medicine? I read all the comments. Always. And I'm especially interested in knowing which of these plants you already knew or used. If this video has connected something within you with knowledge that was always there waiting, give it a like. Help more people discover it.